Okay. So this is a recording. We're going back to basics, and we're going to use a timer. Okay. So the use of a timer is very crucial when you're considering on applying a type of pulse wherein you can control the on period and the off period of this pulse. Okay. So the common way that we do pulses, which is not very good, is by placing in the output signal as a control line or control contact. So, pini-feedback lang natin siya. So, we get that. But the problem with this one is it's a pulse, but it's a uncontrolled timing pulse. Okay? Meaning to say we don't have any control over the frequency or the rate of the production of the pulses. Okay? So, therefore, it is a problematic situation. Now, that being said, okay, we can use a timer, T-on timer, okay, to do the same work, but we have a better control of the output consideration. So let's put it in this manner. Okay, a preset time of uh, 30 seconds and a T file, which is the timer number of one. Okay, so just like what we see on the CPU count up device that we have an input to it as well. But in this case, this is just an enable signal. So if you set the enable to high, the timer starts to count up. But since this is a T-on timer, your output value will not be held high until that particular time comes. Okay. So let's place in a signal to it. Okay. Let's call this signal I00 and add it into the system. Okay. So ito siya. So let's play. You can see the accumulated value increasing as a seconds value indicated into the timer. So once it reaches 30, you should have a value of T1.dn change from black to blue or low state to high state or simply logic 0 to logic 1. Okay, yun na. Kita nyo na siya. And you can also see here a change in T1, TT. Okay. So it also manages to change. Okay. Okay. By actually changing the value of I back to 0, you can see the accumulated value actually go back to 0. Okay. So nakita natin na meron konting negosyo si Willie. Okay. So what we can do to actually employ this one to create a proper pulse for our own purposes is to add in another timing T-on value. In this case, we want it to be 50% duty cycle. So let's put in 30 as a constant preset value. And the timer should be called T2. So the ironic thing is it reminds of the Terminator series, yung T2 series and T1 series. Okay. So in this case, what I'm going to allow to happen here is that when the time inside T1 expires or reaches 30, the T2 value that we have here will change into uh, a mode from off to on. Okay. So we can do that by adding in an input variable which is associated with the timing output. And again, we use T1DN, which is the output of this. Add, okay. And then let's set it to play and then let's see what happens. Okay, as it reaches 30, we're going to see this one start to count. Okay, when it reaches 30 again, these two values are actually left on a logic high position. Now, to make it work to have an output or valid output in this case, we need to add in one more rung. Okay, and this rung would have the out 0.0 um, output on it. Okay. We would need to place in two inputs. The first one is the output of this uh, timer. Okay. And of course, we need to add in I00, which is the trigger point. Sorry, 100 dapat. Okay. And then, we need to add in T2DN as well. Now, T2DN would be normally closed. Again, we don't use the base, we use the DN output. Okay. And then, we now have this associated set of values. Okay. And we have out here. Okay. Now, to force a reset for every one of these timers, we'll need to add in out 00 and another out 00 here. Okay. So normally when I press I00, this line becomes energized and the timer starts. After this timer is enabled, yung output niya, this closes and this rung is energized. When we get an output for this one, okay, ito na yung concern ngayon, we should be able to get a change in state for this output here. Okay. So, yun yung consideration niya. Now, I think I made a mistake. Probably dapat hindi siya T0 dito. It should be a variable of something. Okay. Ang problem lang dito, we have no button to undo the input terminal. Okay. Maybe I can do this. Change natin siya to I00. Para makita lang natin kung ano yung kanyang possible output kung hindi natin minodify nung una pa lang. Update. Okay. Oh, sorry. That's normally closed. It should be normally open. Okay. So test it out. Okay, I'll turn it on. Again, you can see timer on being set to a value. Okay, so this is the 0 mark natin. And then when it reaches 30, it engages the second timer, T2. So at this point, you now have a 30-second interval wherein you're actually holding the output high. And after which, when it reaches 30 seconds, this engages and this releases. Okay, so it now goes back to 0. The only problem that we have here is that we should have a momentary uh, reset position if we want to do this one automatically. Okay, so yun yung concern lang dito sa ano nito. Unfortunately, this timer on doesn't have a reset button or a reset input. So the reset is actually also engaged with the enabled pin. So we have to force this pin to go to back to 0 when this value here goes back to the orientation of let's say a value equal to 0 or completes one cycle from 0 high and goes back to 0. So we need one more input for it. Kung ganito yung itsura ng condition. In some of the systems na ginagawa, we have actually a reset or a separate reset line that controls the T on. Okay. Okay. So to answer that particular problem that we need a reset function, we can probably place in a counter. So the preset value of this counter is 1. The counter number is 1 as well. Okay. So here we would have a count up line. Again, the count up line is the opportunity that we have in order to have an output change values. Okay. So the change of value is the one we want to reflect here on the C1DN, okay, portion of this connection. Okay. So to control it properly, let's place in the value of the out, okay, the out value, okay, and place it as a normally open terminal. So next, what we need to add in is another output, which is the output of your first timer. Okay, T1DN. Okay, so now that we've set this one up, it's normally open. And another one is the second timer that we have. This would be much more easier if there was actually a signal, a reset signal on the T on device itself. Okay. But unfortunately, in this case, there is no reset signal or individual reset line. Okay. So what do we have here? We need a circumstance wherein T1DN is actually held high. This one is held high. And this one is also held high to a certain point. Okay? Or sorry, held low dapat siya. So, we can edit the contact here to normally close. So, if this is 0 and this is high and this is high, it proves already that we have already done this rung 1, 2, and 3, and it's done. Okay, meaning to say we have one pulse. And we can put the CU to a position wherein it goes from 0 to 1 or low to high. This engages the count here, and this will engage the C1DN. Okay. So yung reset natin, we'll have a external reset as well here. Okay. So file tag, we'll use the timers again. Sorry. Timer 1, DN. Timer 2, DN. And the moment of change out from set to reset happens when C1DN is actually held in the high position as well. Let's see if this one works. Okay. So we change this contact to C1DN. State C1DN. Update. Okay. Play it out. Let's wait for the first 30 seconds to happen. Again, you don't see the timer and timer 2 and CPU actually being enabled. So at this point, you already see that out is set. So we have almost half of the statement here. Well, 2/3 of the statement here being fulfilled. Okay. Okay. So we have a problem lang here. Okay. Normally open contact natin should be closed. There. Kaya hindi siya tumutuloy. So let's edit the functions, make it a bit more faster. Okay. Okay. So we have that one mention splitting out of 5, and then we have this one also creating a 5. So we see here a function wherein this goes blue, and you can see this goes to reset. But unfortunately, the reset button here also doesn't happen because this is incorrect. Okay. Should be a closed position rather than a open position. So C1DN here, still at that position, doesn't want to close. It may end up, sorry, fudge up that one. Okay. So I'll stop the recording now. Okay. So let's load the item again. Unfortunately, I pressed the escape button. Kaya siya nagkaroon ng problem. Let's place in here a CPU. Again, let's call it 1. And let's give a preset value of 1. Let's add it up. So C1 DN closed. C1 DN. Okay. Oh, sorry. Should be closed. Okay. So in this case, uh, we need to add in an additional output. So the output is called an internal relay. So relay DN, and this relay is set to a latch position. Okay. This will help deal off the problem for the reset. Okay. Okay. So let's place in an output 00 here. Okay. Ibig sabihin, we're referencing it to a 00 close condition. Okay. Next, let's add in P1, 1, 0 yung napindot ko. 1, okay, DN. Add in another one, P1, 1, DN. Sorry, 2 pala dapat siya. So this implies that this has taken place, and we get a count 1 up here. Okay. So on the other hand, yung reset natin to complete, we would also need something else, which is this item here. Okay. Yung RODN natin, just to get it to do a reset. Okay. R0DN. And then followed by a close status. So the counter 1, 1, DN. So let's play. Unfortunately, we have to wait for 30 again. Let's edit the function, place it to 5, update, place this one to 5 to make it quicker. Okay. So let's see how this behaves. Okay. So we get a output there, and we get a reset for most of it. So you now have a continuous pulse. Okay. So after the add, we completed another item here. Okay. So let's save this one out. Okay. So let's stop the recording.